Welcome to the Breakthrough Moments podcast, a podcast where challenges meet opportunities. I'm Harald, and together with my co-host Lasse, we explore stories of innovators, leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs, and how they turn obstacles into game-changing breakthroughs. Get ready for insights that inspire and lessons that last. Subscribe now, and let's dive into the moments that define success. On today's episode of the Breakthrough Moments podcast, we're thrilled to welcome Vidmantas Sokstinis, CEO and co-founder of Melp. With a rich background that includes leading the leading fitness chain in the Baltics, Vidmantas has transitioned his expertise into the HR tech space. His company Melp is transforming the way companies approach employee benefits and engagement by providing a comprehensive platform that would cover everything from medical services to financial protection. Today, we dive into Vidmantas' journey, exploring the pivotal moments that has shaped his career and innovative solutions his team at Melp is bringing to the market. Welcome to the podcast, Vidmantas.
Hi, Harold. Good to be here.
So we had a conversation before this, and I've learned more about who you are, what you guys do at Melp, and I think it's really, really good. But for the people that don't know you, who are you, and what do you guys do at Melp?
So, short introduction about myself. So, my background is in marketing, but already for around 15 years, I'm leading the companies as a CEO. So, at first at the entertainment sector, arenas and ticketing, then fitness and wellness activities, and now at HR Tech, at a growing startup here in the Baltics. So, if someone would know me from the previous background, I'm a big fan of any physical activity and involved in that. But otherwise, the last 5 years, last few years are already getting into HR tech, trying to understand more about people and culture side, which I believe is very important for the general business, for any business.
Yeah, wonderful. And Melp, we're going to dive more into the story of Melp. But if you were to kind of give let's say, a one paragraph or a short intro to what do you guys do at Melp? Because I believe personally, at least, you're doing something that is new. It's also innovative, but it's something that we need. So kind of like a short intro there.
So at Melp, we want to improve employee engagement to increase employee retention, so help people stay with their employers longer. And we believe that it's critical for any businesses, and this challenge is going to be even bigger in the upcoming years. So basically, that's what we do, and we have a big vision of Melp, what can be done, how employers can help employees during the lifetime, during the life cycle of the employee. But for now, we have started with employee benefits, communication, employee recognition, so kind of employee welfare platform. It is software as a service. It's a digital tool, online app, and we work with the companies from mid to large, so starting usually from 250 employees and up to 5,000 and more clients in our portfolio.
Yeah, that's nice. Because I remember when we discussed a bit about the why behind it in terms of you discussed I went a lot of back and forth in terms of the fact that we've seen a bit of a different market when it comes to after the pandemics, for example, in terms of engagement among employees, the remote hybrid in on-site in terms of work and all that. So yeah, I think having that tool for both companies is beneficial, but also for the people that work in that company is beneficial as well. But you didn't start out in HR tech. You started out in fitness and wellness space. So I'm curious, and I also bet that a lot of the listeners and the viewers as well are curious to what led to that change. Like what led from the jump from fitness to HR tech, which from the surface of it looks like is total shift in focus. And have you experienced that in that change that your prior experience has been of benefit to what's been the journey with Melp now since the pandemic and afterwards?
Mhm. So there are a couple of angles of how to explain. At first, fitness and wellness is still one of the larger employee benefits globally. So when we discussed with my co-founders the idea of Melp's birth, how to say. So they were representing insurance sector. They had experience in insurance, which is the largest employee benefit globally. Then I was representing fitness and wellness, which is also very important into the employee work and life balance. But we also involved other professionals as HR, as medical representatives, because we thought about combining these ideas and joining them together under one platform where employees
Mhm.
could get various help or suggestions, but the most important, ability to choose. Because we totally believe in personalization, that in the future lots of things are going to be personalized, and employee experience should also be personalized. And for larger employers, when you step out a few hundred people in your organization, it's quite difficult to personalize and to get everybody's what they want exactly for themselves. People
Mm.
are, all of us are different. So some of us have kids, some of us don't. Some of us have pets, some of us don't. Some of them want to work remotely, some of us want to work from office. And so it's with the compensation and benefits and our needs, one thing that we are different, and another thing that these differences change during our term as an employee. So we wanted employees to make the possibility of choice, access the different benefits that they need, and to help them to be rewarded or compensated even in the way that is the most beneficial for them at that moment of life.
Mm. So the fact that you had the experience from wellness, that kind of opened a door in terms of shaping the vision, what Melp was supposed to be, and the idea of the concept overall. Is that a accurate way of describing it?
Eh, Not very directly, but indirectly, yes, of course, because
Mm.
we are thinking about balancing employees' needs, and
Mm.
wellness and health priorities are really important for many of us. So it is one of the things that we believe that Melp could have even bigger access to in the future. That, for example, if Melp would be integrated with different service providers in other industries, at the
Mm.
same fitness and wellness activities, at insurance or medical services. So then it would be bigger choice for the employees. So they would be happier, more engaged, and then employer would be helping them exactly where they need. And
Yeah.
we see like wellness, it is becoming bigger topic over the years. Hopefully, it will be even bigger in the future. So it's one of the ways to improve employees' life.
Yeah. One thing is the name Melp, and we're going to kind of get to that as well. But Melp started as, if I recall correctly, as primarily like an employee benefit platform. But it has grown to, and you also have vision of broadening outside of that, in terms of what you've mentioned now, in terms of employee engagement and welfare as well. Could you bring us through this evolution? Like, was it the idea from the get go to go beyond employee benefits? And if so, what inspired the idea of being more than just that?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. The vision in the beginning was much bigger. Afterwards, when we started building it already into the product, we decided to narrow the focus just to
Mm-hmm.
start prioritize and start somewhere what is a bit easier to do and measurable, but we can build from that. So we already went this, how to say, MVP way, but it was still a big, big task. So what I can then explain what does MELP stands for, because it explains a bit the story behind. So MELP is abbreviation of four topics that we believe employers could help employees with. It's M, medical services; E, employee benefits; L, lifestyle and longevity; and P, protection and finance. So as you can see, we so far we have started with letter E only, and then it's plenty to do there as well. And though in the last 3 years we already covered quite a few topics there. So we started with employee benefit management, we added communication, we added recognition programs, marketplace, shop, and so on. And that's just one letter. So let's imagine if we would integrate L, lifestyle and longevity, and say we would help employees to get physical consultations, I mean, dietary advice, mental health, or even access to fitness club or personal training. So that would be another letter, and I have expertise in that field.
Mm-hmm.
Fee protection and finance, for example, the same insurance. People get their health insurance at work as an employees, but they could insure their own personal car or home or their family or other needs, and insurance providers would be happy to create really good conditions for that. So because it's interesting target audience. So any B2B supplier in general, they are interested to get to this kind of audience because it's trusted, it's working, it's earning, and we could be these channels. If we would be joining different suppliers with users from these larger companies, we believe that there is a big opportunity for both sides. People to get the services that they need, and suppliers get access to the audience.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting kind of like B to B to C strategy in general in terms of built into the business model. And I think I also remember we discussed a bit about this last time we spoke as well.
Mhm.
Um, but you guys didn't have kind of like the easiest start because a couple of years back you had the pandemics, and that's actually when you guys started Melp. Um, how do you think that starting in that type of environment changed how you did things in terms of the strategy, how you structure things, and do you see it now as since you've been in the process and the CEO and running companies before that as well? How did the pandemics change things?
Mhm. So the most direct way how it changed, we were communicating remotely, and I believe our first live meeting in the starting team, in the founding team, was really after not less than half a year from the initial talks, because
Mm.
everybody was scattered even in different countries, and then we were joining on these weekly calls, and of course everybody had their own challenges as personal challenges, because many things were ongoing that nobody knew how they will turn, either in other businesses or personally or in family or health related. But I think it builds some kind of mindset that even in the difficult conditions, you can start something new. There is such a saying that baby is born at the harsh times, they become the strongest. So we also want to believe that sometimes during difficult situation around us, we can create new ideas, interesting ideas, something that nobody thought before, one way or another. So at first, of course, we started remotely and we continued remotely. We just half a year ago, we have got our first office, and still we are learning how to use it. Everybody's so used to work remotely that everybody's happy with that, and it's one of the additional benefit for the company that it's hybrid, and then it's easier and more flexible for you personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people regarding the because pre-pandemic, it wasn't normal with that hybrid type of environment. Working remotely wasn't as popular as it has become, obviously because the pandemic forced it. And I see that I talk with a lot of people and they have very varied perspective on remote. Some like are not preaching it at all because they've just a negative experience from it. But it sounds like you guys were able to kind of like hone the benefits of that remote startup, you could call it, and then now integrating that into more, let's say, the physical office and getting together. And it's interesting what you've been able to do starting during the pandemic and now afterwards. One of the things I remember you mentioned is the landscape of fundraising during the pandemic. Could you elaborate a bit more about that?
Mhm. So at first, I want to reflect what helped us to go quite well working remotely. And I think that our team was quite senior and professional. We didn't have so many junior people in the beginning.
Mm,
So, and then if you get this ownership, if you get your topics that you have to cover, and there is no one really like super watching you and breathing in your back. So this kind of responsibility and ownership worked very well in this
mm,
professional team. So maybe it was good that if you work remotely, really have people that can take this ownership, can take this
yeah.
responsibility, and they understand this. So I think it's good that it worked for us. Maybe it would work for someone else. If it would be super many junior people who need to learn or educate, should be educated constantly, maybe it would be more difficult. So
Hmm.
we haven't got that challenge. And then about the fundraising, going to your question. So we in the during the pandemic, so we as a founders brought in the capital, and also the early team members also were able to join and get the participation in the company. But we have started fundraising right after the pandemics, which was at first it was still easy to do it in the 2021. Everybody remembers that time as still a good one. But 2022 was more challenging, and really investors started to look in many different aspects. It wasn't so like, oh, startup, nice idea, let's let's drop some money in. So everybody who was fundraising or are investing in current climate in the last couple of years, they understand it. You have to like promise the results, promise the targets, deliver the results, and then be really thorough in that. So you should know your data. You should follow up. Really, it's not a super easy thing to do, and the investors are picky, and they have startups to choose from. So you have to work through, find the right investors to establish the contact, also a personal contact as well,
Hmm.
and then just continue, just be resilient and work on that. Everything is possible. So the best companies, they get the investment. So just be the best, easy to say.
Yeah. Would you describe the landscape to be different from before the pandemics?
Sure. So as I explained, I think that even VCs are also becoming more professional. So of course there are new VCs emerging, but they already had their ups and downs, and maybe in some more like advanced markets, they have more experience in for example, Central and Eastern Europe. They are more like new VCs, not
Hmm.
that experienced yet. But I believe that everybody is very careful with their money now. And venture capital, they also have their own investors, their
Yeah.
LPs, and then they have to follow up with them. So there are no easy solutions now. I think that's, as I mentioned, you have to be very precise on how you work, on how you deliver, and of course, especially how you pivot, because there are
Mm.
many good ideas, but during the implementation phase, you have to be flexible, you have to adapt, you have to find what works, what don't, do it fast, like test new things, try to implement the ones that work, and at the same time report it, be able to present it, and then investors are usually into that if you follow up with your words, what you promised, and you deliver, if you are able to change, if you are professional to learn at the same time as you work. So it's a
Yeah.
good set of qualities.
Yeah, because I heard heard a couple of people mention that the landscape of raising money now after the pandemics has been different from what it was before the pandemic. It was easier access to money before, but now, given the pandemic and the downturn and then the swing up, people, or especially VCs and investors, they're a bit more hesitant. They want to get more of the data. They want to get a deeper understanding of the business, the vision, the numbers, especially. So it's interesting that you, to some degree, see the same thing. Um, one thing that is interesting when it comes to tech companies like yourself is it's tech. Like obviously, the key bottleneck is development. To be able to craft a product that the long term vision describes it to be. Uh, you had I would call two stages to that, where you first did the outsourcing of the MVP, and then you ended up bringing the development team in house instead. Could you take us through what happened, why you chose to go with outsource first and then bring it in house, and like the reflections and experiences that came with that?
Hmm. So now, going back through that process, I would suggest, and probably would be better for us also to build the in-house team and start with them. Then we thought that we will be able to launch faster. That was one of the main reasons. Like we will bring outsource team. There will be more people at the same time, and then we will produce the product faster. We will ship it to the market, and then we will learn from that. We will get the market feedback and build on this. So really, it wasn't the case. I would say
Mm.
it was more like a wishful thinking. I would say in the team in house, they usually are more into the product. They really understand better, or you can convey better the business targets and how it can be related to the tech side of things. So I would think that at the end of the day, it wasn't faster. It
Mm.
cost us probably same or a bit more how it would cost with in-house team, but probably we would be more in line with, and it would be easier for us to build further on. So if we would be starting with in-house team at once, but we did what we did. Now we are happy with the team that we assembled afterwards, and really, as I said, these professional people, maybe not the cheapest, but then you really get the better quality, better results. So, and if they are in line with your vision, if they are engaged as an individual, so then you get great results.
So, would you say that the looking back in retrospect and in hindsight, the reason why the outsourced team didn't work as well as the in-house team is because the in-house team have a greater degree of buy-in to what they're building and the company in general? Would you say that that's kind of like been the key change between the two?
Most likely, because still outsourced team, they have something else on the table,
Mm,
probably, and you never know that. So, what other projects they might appear in the agency? What are the
yeah.
targets? Who will come and who will outbid you? And you will feel that only in the results. Is the product shipped quick enough? Are the iterations fast? Do they listen and respond? But also this personal connection with the team. So sometimes people are able to go extra miles. Otherwise, if it is just client supplier relation, so you can not get this extra benefit or this extra idea. For example,
Hmm.
that you ordered, you got it. But during the way, have you got these all incremental improvements? Have you got the ideas or suggestions? So sometimes it is a case with the suppliers, outsource suppliers, and I'm happy for everyone who can get that. But I believe that it's much easier to get with an in-house team.
Yeah. And then maybe a challenging question as a follow up to that. If you were to like zoom back or go back in time to the day you guys decided to do the outsource team, how would you have done it differently with the same outsource team or maybe other individuals based on what you now know?
If we wouldn't build in the in-house at once, yeah, because the first choice would be to build in-house at once.
Yeah, but you can't build in-house. But if you were
Okay,
to make the same decision, like we
okay.
have to outsource, how would you have done it differently? Because I had a call with a with a gentleman last week that runs a IT outsourcing company,
Hmm.
and we discussed a lot of back and forth this dynamic in terms of increased ownership, speed, communication barrier, and all of these things. But like based on what you know now, if you were to go back, how would you have done outsourcing
Hmm.
differently?
Yeah. So I think that we would split the product into smaller iterations, and we
Mm-hmm.
would make smaller MVP. We were building MVP, but at the end of the day, now I believe that it was too large of the project. So it was taking too long, and after it takes too long, then it becomes many problems to fix, and you still haven't shipped to the market. The market
Mm-hmm.
will tell you the reality. That's the reality check. So the bigger thing you are constructing, the bigger rocket or spaceship. So there are more different problems that might appear along the way or during the launch of this spaceship. So I
Mm-hmm.
would now try to build much more smaller working product, launching it to the market faster, and then still responding, changing, fixing. Probably that would be the first idea what to change, even working with the outsourced team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's nice because at least from my experience as well, building things like we as founders, we have this uh, super or maybe not always a super crystal clear idea what we want to do. We have all the benefits, all the ideas, and all that. But communicating that, especially to an outsource team, and also having personal experience with that, and not necessarily just positives, it's a bit of a challenge to get someone to understand it like you understand it. Hence,
Mhm.
why I like the recommendation of taking this big thing and breaking it up into smaller parts and seeing each part as its own fully worthy, let's say, prototype or MVP, and that the bigger thing consists of a lot of smaller things. I think that is a very, very good recommendation in terms of doing that. Because then you don't necessarily need to have the full someone to be fully bought into the super long term vision, because this is one thing that they're building is actually fairly or quite small.
Mhm.
I like that. Another challenge you guys had, which I remember, which is an interesting one, is referencing kind of back to the fact that you guys started remotely during the pandemics. There was another aspect to that as well, and that was the fact that you and the co-founders, it was the first time you guys were doing business together. Like, how was that experience, and what challenges and maybe benefits could you say has occurred as kind of like first time entrepreneurs together as the team that you are now?
Mhm. So two of the founders have been working together previously in the insurance sector, but also for some time they haven't been business partners then. So as more like colleagues. But I believe that we are still learning. So and we are adapting and adjusting. So of course, three co-founders that have been the leaders in their respective fields. Of course, there is a question of how to divide the space and how do we make decisions and how do we communicate with each other. So I think in the beginning, the first year and a half, even 2 years, was lots of learning, and then we got more of an understanding of who we are and what can we do best together as professionals, as an individuals. But the main suggestion would be for everyone to just listen more. Try not to speak first. Listen first, and also understand that still everybody is reaching and working for the same target. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to reach the same goal, and just the way how we will reach it, we don't know exactly. We just have our hypothesis, we have ideas, we have agreements, and then everything else is just ego. standing in our way, and when we believe that our idea might be somehow more preferable than the other. So if you share openly, if you are honest about it, if you don't, if you're not afraid to be vulnerable, and so that the first things, and then of course exploit your strengths. Each of us are anyway different, so we all have our strength, and we all have our weaknesses. So
Hmm.
if we can cover with our strength the weakness of the colleague of the co-founders, and vice versa, so that's how we reach maximum result with our current capabilities.
Yeah.
So and of course being together live also helps. We see that if you're working just remotely, there are more things left on the table. I mean, on the personal level,
Mm.
when you are communicating and you have to make important decisions. So it's always good to have a mix. So even if we are working remotely, mostly meeting together, having workations together, having some strategy sessions together, it helps a lot.
Yeah. So if you were to kind of like, so there's plenty of people that are in the starting phases. So either looking for a co-founder, looking for someone to start something with. They're in discussions, maybe, oh, let's start something together. What would you say, based on your experience now working with co-founders that you haven't worked with previously, that you believe those who are in the starting phases would benefit knowing, in terms
Hmm.
of what type of mindset would they benefit going into? Are there maybe things that they should look for in a co-founder? Like, because you've been through that process, and now it looks, from the looks of it, and from what we discussed previously as well, you
Hmm.
found a nice balance in your current team. But what recommendations would you give to those who are haven't yet started together on the new venture, but are in that discussion phase or thinking about finding a co-founder?
Yeah, so I would suggest two things. One is look for the complementary co-founders. So if you are coming from the same expertise of same area, so there will be more topics and challenges that you will have both your opinion on similar stuff, and maybe it would be very similar or minor differences, but you are wasting time discussing these small differences, where in general it's more about the direction where you should be going.
Mm,
So if you are from tech, find someone from sales or marketing. Usually that's like really different and very, very complementary. So if you at some point, maybe someone from the operations, strong person in operations would be helpful, because when you will be scaling up, some person would revise the processes or make more effective operations. So think about complementary, like diverse but complementary. So more diverse team brings more different ideas to the table, more different experience. Someone lived in one market, another maybe in the other market. Super
mm,
good. Networks are different, and that would be helpful. So differences and being complementary. Another thing, I think, very simple advice: just try to do something together. Work together for a project for a few months, maybe for, at least for a few weeks. It's so easy to see the person in reality. You know, when do they start work? When do they end work? How do they
mm,
communicate with you? Are they more closed and they want to do something on their own, or they want to talk through a lot? Do they make decisions easy? Do they want to share, or do they want to make decisions just on themselves? And everything is all right.
yeah,
It's when it suits you, and when you can achieve the results together. So just try to do something together, build a small thing, and
yeah,
you'll learn in a week much more than just talking about some idea, and then talking about some start. You will understand when you will start. So I would suggest to do something realistically.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Um, we touched upon what the different letters in Melp stands for, or what they represent. Another thing so one of the things that you guys are working towards is expanding across the different layers. But one additional thing as well is expanding um, geographically, so into different countries. We discussed this last time we spoke before this. What challenges do you see will come in expanding across the layers, but not just that, but also across borders?
Hmm. Yeah, so and it's obvious that these challenges will emerge. We see that, for example, in the employee benefit space, there are some strong players in separate markets, and there are just few companies who manage to do that across different markets globally and grow very consistently. So the first and most obvious problem was languages. And
Mm.
starting from the beginning, we already implemented the integration in our product that we can translate our app to basically any language in just a few days. It's programmed like this. This localization, it's already embedded into the product. So it was a bit more difficult in the beginning, but now we can super easy like implement new language according to the needs of the client, if it is international company or it's a new market that we are going into. So
Mm.
that's one thing. But there will be, and there are many different challenges. At first, client service and in which language you will provide, in which time zone. So far, we are working with Europe. So if we would go outside Europe, so European markets, so time zones will become really important and essential matter. But uh, tax directives or tax incentives in different markets, they have really big influence on employee benefits. So if there are any tax incentives in some local market, so usually these benefits start to become more prevailing in the market. Also, some integrations. So, for example, transportation as a benefit, it is also important across the globe. So, would you integrate with the local transportation providers, or you will have some other solution for that? So, many questions going to different markets. I'm not even talking about sales and marketing, but that's a topic for any digital product, like how to find the clients.
Mm.
For example, we have found our way, and we are working with many HR events across different countries. So at first we pick ones, we try to go to as a visitors, then we book our booth or do the presentations and so on, and try to find our target audience of HR managers. At the same time, we're working with a cold outreach. We are reaching the companies directly, also marketing activities and advertising in our target geographies that we pick. But preparation, I would also suggest if someone would ask an advice, I would say try to dig deeper into your target market. At first, of course, try to compare them and find the markets that you want to access. But then dig deeper, find the professional in that space and who has worked for many years there, and you would get the insights that 1 or 2 hour chat would give you so much more than a month of spending on ads that someone may not see.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because I was thinking about this when we spoke last in terms of the expansion, because one of the things that you mentioned is that you have quite a aggressive growth agenda, at least for the rest of the year, but also for the next year, for 2025. I was like, okay, there's what challenges lies along that way in terms of legal, tax-wise, country, cultures, all these different things. Because you mentioned that you have about 30,000 users or employees
Yeah.
across companies that use Melp services, and that you have a goal of not just doubling that, but turning that into 100,000 by the end of next year. Kind of like what strategies you mentioned some in terms of the HR conferences and call directly to these markets, but kind of like what do you see that you guys need to do to achieve that scale, but also have it to be sustainable?
Mhm. So, of course, we will increase the number of the users on our platforms till this year. But yeah, the targets are ambitious and challenging, and we are growing. We also manage to grow quite well within the group of companies that we already work with. So probably one of the most important things is like if your clients are happy, so one that they will refer you to the other ones, another that they usually part of some bigger groups, and there are
Mm.
big company groups that we started to work with. For example, if we are working with a company who have 5,000 who has 5,000 employees in the Baltics, but they have 380,000 employees in total. So there is
Mm.
an opportunity to make your clients reach their goals, reach the KPIs for the employee engagement, uh, deliver what you promised to them or over deliver. And usually you are able to grow in the category as well through your existing clients. So far, our this there is a term called net revenue retention. So how much income you can generate from existing clients, either from adding more employees or being able to get higher price through, for example, paid add-ons. So
Hmm.
far, this indicator in our case was around 140%, which is great. It means like our bucket is not leaking. When we get the client, we manage to even upsell them more, and
Hmm.
if they are happy, they can bring us this our ship into the bigger ocean as well. That's the usual case. So probably work with your own clients, and the same as I mentioned with these sales and marketing activities, both directly, if you know your audience quite well, and if you find out how do they make decisions in different markets, so just try to get to them. Probably one of the bigger challenges growing will be growing our sales team in these separate geographies, because of course then there is a need to somehow engage them, to control them, to motivate them, and to make them achieve these targets. And there are of course very different stories that every startup knows that can go anyway. So prepare your homework and find the best people to do it. So of course it's
Yeah.
easier said than done, but it's people business anyways. It will be the team who will achieve the result. So probably investing and finding right people. It's the most important job in a
Yeah.
startup.
Yeah, and I truly believe that it the people are the make it or break it. There's no other way around it. But I remember when you mentioned that goal in terms of like it's going to be really interesting to follow along and see how it goes for at least the next year.
It is. It
And
is.
looking
It's
at it,
interesting and it's challenging, but it's what's challenging. It's moving us forward.
yeah. And we need to do something that keeps us on edge in terms of like challenging us to learn and to push forward. And I really like that. I have one final question, and it is a question that I like to wrap up these podcasts with. And it goes like this: if you could get an answer to one question related to what you do and to Melp, what would that question be, and what would you like to know?
Uh, this would be super practical because I believe that when we are solving our everyday challenges, you might look in the longer perspective. And of course, I if I could ask some oracle, which of these melt letters would work best, maybe we would go with that one faster, or maybe there is an opportunity that we are going that step by step, and maybe we do not foresee, and we could go there quicker. But probably now I would concentrate on something more more nearby, and I would look into large market, and I would, for example, United Kingdom, and I would ask for the best way to reach our target audience, and probably this question has to be asked by us to many different market professionals and specialists, and we will find the answer. And otherwise, we will make many errors and trial this. But if someone could help us reach the target audience, and so afterwards help this product market fit in the large market, yeah, that would be a very interesting answer to hear. For me, it would save us lots of time and probably money.
Yeah, I think that is a perfect segue to the last part, which is if someone believes they have the answer to that, they want to, or either they want to connect with you, learn more about Melp, where can they find you and reach you?
So LinkedIn is probably the easiest thing to do. I'm usually there during the day, and I get the messages. So of course, sometimes these days it can be busy because we all get the different sales actions directed to us. But LinkedIn, so go to the Melp as a company, and you will find myself and so Vidmantas Sokstinis. But you will find me in the list of companies. Also melp.com, our website. So there you can see what do we do, and you can reach us through there. I'm always happy to connect with anyone either working with employee benefits, fitness, wellness, or just sharing the experience in HR. Maybe someone needs an advice to do something in the Baltics. So I think sharing is important part of our growth as a people, but as a businesses as well. So very happy to be contacted.
Yeah, perfect. And for those listening or watching on YouTube, the links and comments will be added on in the comments on YouTube. But with Mantas, it's been a pleasure. It's been inspiring to hear about the story, startup during the pandemic, the transition from fitness and wellness to HR tech, and also the dynamic of working with co-founders for the first time. And I hope that the listeners and the viewers also found some golden nuggets that they can bring on, because we come with a lot of good advice. And I have to end by saying thank you for being part of the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Thanks.